Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and I would like you to hearken back, if you will, back to November of 1985, long before the days of comic book stores when if you wanted to pick up a comic book, you went to the local drugstore or a supermarket, something to that effect. They didn't have the little Spider-Man or Batman symbol on the front of it. No. There was a barcode for it to be scanned, and some rude store clerk would roughly scan the book over and press it and crinkle it under their horrible fingers because they didn't understand the value in these pages. I want you to remember back when you picked up issue number 8 of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and at the very end you saw Barry Allen, the Flash, the one and only true Flash, darn it, who sacrificed his life destroying the Anti-Monitor's antimatter cannon, destined to destroy all universes except his own Anti-Monitor universe. And it was a sad, sad day in comics. And for 23 years, he stayed dead. And yet, when he came back, under the masterful hands of Grant Morrison and Jeff Johns, it seemed so perfect. He'd been gone all that time, but I'm going to break something to you. He wasn't actually dead. He wasn't gone. No. He was in capable hands. He was in the hands of Marvel Comics. Unofficially, of course. Guys, about 5 years, almost to the month of the fateful day that Barry Allen died, there was a comic book out called Quasar. And in issue number 17, Quasar had an interesting run-in. Now, Quasar is not the most important character in the Marvel Universe, but I did have a great fondness for him because he was basically a direct ripoff of the Green Lantern. He had wristbands called quantum bands, not like the negabands that Marvel would use, Captain Marvel. No, a little different. These things created solid light constructs, very similar to the Green Lanterns, except that these were made out of yellow energy. This was written by Mark Gruenwald, very famous writer. He's done some very good stuff here, and make no mistake, the Flash, Barry Allen, was treated with the utmost of respect, but let's go on and see exactly how this happened. Quasar is out with the Squadron Supreme, and cute enough, the Squadron Supreme is basically a direct ripoff of the Justice League, because that's what they were always meant to be. So they're discussing this trip that they just made around the Earth and checking things out, making sure that things are safe. Wendell Vaughn is the assigned protector of the universe by this cosmic entity, lesser cosmic entity, mind you, called Eon. And yeah, so he's just making his rounds, making sure that everything's safe and on the up and up. So out of nowhere, some object moves past him so fast he feels as though he was standing still as it zips past, and it goes directly towards Earth. Now, he's heading towards Earth, but he can't move that fast. But he's able to get a very quick reading on his quantum bands of tachyon particles. Now, tachyon particles are basically faster than light particles, hypothetically. Gives you the idea of time travel. All the Squadron Supreme is present, and they're all, like I said, direct ripoffs of the Justice League. Hyperion is there, he's a direct ripoff of Superman. The Wizard is there, and he's a direct ripoff of the Flash. Well, Macarai, and maybe you pronounce his name differently, good for you, but Macarai is there, Makari, whatever you want to call him, and he's an Eternal. Now, Eternals are these beings that were created, the Celestials and the Kree had basically evolved separately, but together. It's a weird sort of thing, and basically they're a version of the Greek gods, but not quite. Anyway, Macarai has always considered himself the fastest being in the galaxy, maybe ever. And the Wizard, too, similarly. But the Wizard comes from a different dimension. He's just there visiting, and Macarai is kind of there anyway. So Macarai comes out and he says, listen, man, you just detected something whizzing by. I would like to investigate also. So when they get back to Earth, they go to investigate, but all of a sudden, an Elder of the Universe shows up named the Runner. And he's this all-gold creature, not to be confused with Glorian or any other all-gold creature, including a James Bond villain. But he runs up and he says, hey, Macarai, you're pretty fast. What do you say you join this race with me? I want to see who the fastest, being alive is in the galaxy, and then that's going to lead to an even bigger race much later on. Well, okay, he decides, sure, I'll do it. And Maguire is surprised at the burst of speed that the runner is able to attain. It's like, whoa, am I ever going to have a chance against this guy? So Maguire shows up at this race, and there at the race, he sees a number of other speedsters in the Marvel Universe. He sees Captain Marvel, that's Monica Rambeau. He sees the Wizard, who he'd just seen. He sees Quicksilver, Speed Demon, Super Saber from the pages of the X-Men, and he sees the Black Racer. So the runner sets this up so that they run from the Earth to the Moon, and he's made a little tunnel that will warp with the rotation of the Earth and the rotation of the Moon. Well, the Moon doesn't actually rotate away from us, but we always see the one side of the Moon because of its rotation with ours. But the point is that the Moon is moving and the Earth is rotating, so it kind of makes it so that it will keep on staying towards the Moon so that you can actually race from the Earth to the Moon. It's comic book science. Let it go. Well, they're running, and they all got their little individual things. Some can't run faster than others and whatever, but Maguire seems to be kicking some serious butt, and he just pretty much closes his eyes and just becomes one with speed. I am speed. Man, like Lightning McQueen should have been there. Well, suddenly, on Earth, not too far from where this race is starting, this being materializes on Earth. Now, he's got no memory of his past, just this feeling in the pit of his stomach, like there's a ball of lightning, and he just needs to run. So he finds the energy source that is the path that leads to the Moon. The runners have already started a bit ago, but he jumps on that path and he runs. This guy is so fast that he passes everybody. Maguire's running faster than he's probably ever ran for the most part, except that he wound up getting an injury in his leg, but he's still running uber fast. And the Flash, this character, passes him, almost as if the guy's standing still. Now, Quasar, tracking the energy readings, estimates that he's going to be here at the end of this racetrack. So he shows up, and the runner's already there waiting for him. And this guy shows up, and he's there way ahead of everybody else. The runner congratulates him and asks him, how does it feel to be the fastest man alive? And he says, it just feels right. He asks him his name also, and he says, I can't remember, but I think it was something like Buried Alien. Barry Allen? Really? So he's invited to join this intergalactic race, and he's whisked away just about when Maguire and then eventually all the other guys show up. They're actually that slow compared to the Buried Alien, that guy. Now again, this was issue number 17, December of 1990. The issue was actually titled Reborn to Run. Now, we won't see this character again for another 3.5 years later. We're talking issue number 58, that's May of 1994. Now, this is also going to be written by Mark Gruenwald, and it should really be understood that Mark Gruenwald really wanted to write for DC. I mean, he was happy writing for Marvel, he was a prankster, he was a great guy, all that stuff, but he was one of those guys that he wanted to have fun and write the Marvel version of these other characters. He was the guy who made the Squadron Supreme. He was the guy who chose to bring the Flash, somewhat illegally, over to Marvel. Now, breaking copyright infringements, whatever, like I said, he was really good with the character. He named him the fastest man alive, even in the Marvel Universe. So it took a lot of reverence with the character, which, again, is a lot more than I could say about DC. Now, in issue 58, we start off with Maguire, and he's running, he's doing his thing, and he's actually trained by this sentient being who is known for speed. Everything about them is speed. So he's training under this one, and it turns out that this guy is actually senile. The other members of his race, including his own children, don't care about that. They only care about running fast. They're not interested in racing anybody else or proving who's faster. It's all silly to them. The trick is that his master has actually gone senile. So that's why he took on a disciple other than his own. There are some funny moments here where in its senility, before it dies, it makes one last request, and it says, I want you to run. I want you to actually run in this race that the runner's about to have, this intergalactic race of multiple planets. That's what I want you to do. And he says, well, I didn't qualify, but okay, I'll see what I can do. I'll do the best I can. So he enters in this version of the mother box that was left behind by the runner, and he goes to where these people are. They're getting ready to run this final race. And the runner tells him, listen, it's really great for you to come by, but you can be a spectator, and that's it, because you didn't qualify for the race. Your friend Fast Forward here did. He looks over, and Fast Forward is now the new name of Buried Alien, because he didn't want to have that name anymore. And you can't actually call him the Flash, so they called him Fast Forward. But they're happy to see each other, and, you know, it is what it is. But Macarai isn't satisfied. He says, no, listen, I will run a preliminary race, and I will do it on one leg, and I will beat whoever you put against me. He says, listen, you run it by yourself, and if you can beat the slowest time of these qualifiers, then you can take his place. How about that? So he does, hops in on one leg, and is able to beat the slowest of the fast runners. So he now makes it into the race. He's a qualifier. And they go on this run. So they have a turtle character and a few other different characters that are in there. One of the characters that's in this race is called Fufura. Now, it's a bunny, kind of like the Energizer bunny, except it's brown. What's more is I think that maybe it might be making fun of the original bunny that was made for batteries. Duracell actually had one first. Energizer Bunny's rabbit was just simply a lot more popular. It was marketed better. Anyway, whichever one it is, it's clearly one of these characters, and yes, it just keeps going and going and going. So it's able to keep a stun disc on its back. It's this huge disc that you throw it stuns whoever it hits, and then it returns to their hand. And he's able to keep this because he convinces the runner, who's not really that bright, that this is actually food. You know, I'm a rabbit species and we have to eat a lot, so this is my food supply. The runner says, fine, whatever. And he's able to keep a stun baton on him also. All these different weapons, including goggles that fire laser beams. Well, Fufura is a cheater, and he decides to attack each one of these guys when they're in their race, one at a time, the one who's trailing the most. And he just knocks these people out and leaves them in the back, trips them up, whatever it takes. And apparently this is necessary, because if he doesn't, then his people will make him into a stew. And I can vouch for rabbit stew. And he finally gets up to the point where he's about to hit Macarai. Now, Macarai and the runner and Fast Forward, Buried Alien, the Flash, are the last three contestants besides him. And Fufura goes and throws his disc. Now, at about the same time, Buried Alien gets this idea that, you know, I don't think that there are so many people behind us anymore. There's no way we're that fast. So he speeds up just enough so he could risk turning around to look at what's behind him. And he sees that Fufura is attacking the people. So just in the nick of time, he steps back and attacks Fufura. He blocks the stun disc. Fufura starts shooting these laser beams at him, but, you know, Barry Allen, the Flash, he starts running around in a circle doing his 100 punch a second thing to him, knocks the rabbit out, and he realizes there's no way I'm going to win this race. But he's a good guy, and he really is like the epitome of what a good guy is, so it doesn't bother him that much. So now we're left with Macarai and the runner, and they're running, and the runner's starting to win. But then Macarai just starts to remember the lessons that he learned from his master that he'd been training with. And he is able to run faster than the speed of thought. And he's able to beat the runner. And he beats him so much that he doesn't even realize until about 58 light years after he's passed the finish line that he'd won. So he returns, and there's a big celebration. And he gets an award from the Roadrunner, which is cute. We're just destroying the whole WB property here, right? So he wants to have his friends with him to celebrate. So he's able to go through a little mother box makeshift thing and go to visit his friends and say, hey, I want you guys to come and hang out with me. But he thinks there's something wrong because they're all frozen in time. In actuality, by him mastering the lessons that his teacher had taught him, he's now permanently stuck in a state where he's faster than thought. He's faster than how everyone else is. And the runner is really one of the only people who can talk to him at this point because he's fast enough to understand it. And he says, yeah, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help you. But a fellow elder of the universe, the Grandmaster, has an offer for you. And he says, oh, listen, since the runner messed up, what I'm willing to do is you run all these races and be my guy who I'm going to bet on. And then after all these races are done, I will help you to not be stuck in this state anymore. McElroy's not having any of that. He's not trying to race for the sake of winning for some guy or whatever. He just runs because he loves the thrill of running, which coincidentally enough is exactly why Buried Alive Fast Forward runs. So they both make a deal. Let's hang out together. I'll help you to try and find a way to turn this off, or at least turn it by will. And you help me to get back home because I just really want to go home. Those are the only two comics now that Flash Forward, The Flash, Buried Alien show up in, but this was a separation of about 5 years. And it's really a cool thing. I mean, he was in good hands with Marvel, for crying out loud. You know, Marvel's not going to disrespect the DC characters like that. Marvel has a lot more reverence for the DC characters than DC does for the Marvel characters. And there are many, many, many exhaustive examples to show that. But the point is that the Flash was actually even dubbed the fastest man alive in the very first race. And he was asked, how do you feel about that? And Buried Alien says, it just feels right. So even in the Marvel Universe, they acknowledge that, yeah, Barry Allen, absolutely, he really is the fastest man alive. Anyway, for me, this was a really good feel-good moment, and, you know, Quasar was actually a pretty big character for me. I collected all 60 issues. I started with issue number 4, went back and got the original 3 issues, and I collected all the issues all the way up until issue number 60, which was the last one. I liked the Quasar comics, and I just remembered this character in it, and it was a pretty big deal. So, for me, yeah, I figured I'd share it with you guys. Hey guys, the Comic Book University is tuition free. All you gotta do is click subscribe. This is Professor Bill. Class dismissed.